Hello, everybody. So my name is Jereme, and I come from Singapore. And today's conference, we actually have mentioned a couple of times, the word conversions. So just to be clear, in the context of online marketing, conversions actually means the desirable actions that you actually wish your website visitors to take, such that you actually moves towards your business objectives. Okay, in the last decade of years, I think websites have evolved. But very much, I think these days we still see a lot of websites that are actually just online brochure. And we actually see that there's a lot of potential that actually should uncover between the link between your objectives and the website. And take, for instance, conversion could easily mean downloading a white paper or just completion of a form where you actually get a database. And that could actually mean a lifetime cycle of a customer. So, okay. So just a few seconds of commercial time here. So click-through, we're actually an online consultancy that's based in Singapore, like what Vinny has mentioned. We are the first in Singapore and in Southeast Asia to be certified as Google Analytics partner, which essentially means we are certified to be able to help you with your Google Analytics product implementation, customization, consultation, as well as training. And today's agenda, we're going to talk about the importance of landing page, which I will not delve very much into. I think Vinny has covered about 8 points on that. I'm going to share with you 2 great tips that you can actually bring away today and go back with a fresh set of eyes, look at your website and see how you could actually improve and have uplift on those conversions on the site. And with those 2 tips will be 2 case studies. One client that we actually done in Singapore, the other one is actually in Malaysia. So the importance of landing page. I think these days, everyone in here should know that website visitors don't actually have much of an attention span. So a mere 2 to 3 seconds is actually all you have to retain them. And it is important that you actually understand the context in which they actually arrive on your page, because the first impression in which they have on your site is actually your landing page. And if you're spending a lot of money on search engine marketing, that could actually mean very much difference of making or losing a lot of money. So we actually have a website, free website health check on our website. To us, it's also a conversion page where we actually get leads from there. And from the very numerous audits we have helped clients to look at the sites, there are just 2 common mistakes that people are always making. The first one, I think a lot of site owners are guilty of this. They would like to cram all kind of information on the sites. And these days, with actually widgets, social media profiles, and what you have is actually all crammed up on your website. You actually distract your visitors away from the real call to action. So we're going to look at one case study that we have helped in Singapore. So Soma is actually one of the maths enrichment school, one of the top leading in Korea. So when they actually first came to Singapore and they set up a website, they created this page. Aesthetically, I think it looks professional, it looks good. But what happens is, after they actually drove some traffic, buying some traffic from search engine marketing, and getting a few EDM blasts, we realized that from the Google Analytics tracking, visitors were actually bouncing across the entire site. So if you look at the previous page, the Ask Us a Question is actually defined as the conversion page, which is actually the Go page. But as a visitor to this website, you might actually mistook the other 2 square buttons or rectangle buttons at the bottom to think that they're actually the conversion goal buttons. So when we re-look at the website, we thought that, hey, why don't we just create a landing page, a single landing page, and we house all those information within one single landing page. So when we did this, if you look at the zoom out version of it, we have all the critical pieces of information, for instance, why Soma, the benefits of joining this school, some customer testimonial, what the parents are saying, and on the right of it, we actually embed the form right there. So without the visitors actually bouncing around across the site and risking them leaving your site, we contain all the visitors to just one single page where we actually house conversion here. And from this, we actually saw a lift in the conversion rates by up to 9.26%. So we love Obama, right? So keep your promises. I think this is again mentioned in Vinny's point, number 1, the post and the pre-click. So I'm going to touch on a little bit more about this in a different context. So 711 Panduan, I think many of you will be familiar with this site. It's actually the number 1 online directory listing in Malaysia. So it's one of the clients that we actually help optimize a lot of the search engine marketing spends monthly. And when we first look at this site, one of the verticals, which is actually called business search. So Google is actually like unstructured search, whereas 711 Panduan is structured search. What that means, essentially, it categorizes the search results information in a more systematic way. So if you're looking for like things like wedding services, automobiles, travel agencies, you actually could find those business listings under this vertical. And one of the top 4 search terms was actually wedding. So if you look at the GA data here, every month there's about a couple of 12,000 visitors coming, but it actually has quite a high bounce rate. So when we evaluated this, we thought that we went through the user's site, the user's intention, as well as the expectation cycle, and then we looked at what are some of the things that the user might be thinking about when they actually search for a wedding term. So when a user actually search for a wedding package in KL, some of the trigger words or some of the parameters that he may actually have in his mind would be things like this: pre-wedding and extra day. So he might be looking at a service provider that could actually provide both services, the latest concepts, and then subsequently putting all the photos on an e-album, and preferably a studio that's actually in Kuala Lumpur. So from an expectation point of view, if you actually have the trigger keywords that's actually embedded on your landing page, to a user, you will actually find comfort and trust. So conversely, if you actually look at the end of the spectrum, where you actually don't contain any trigger keywords, the user, it may actually reach the user bouncing from the page. So this was exactly what we did. I'll just bring you through the typical wedding search first. So when you key in the wedding in the search query bar on the 711 Panduan search, what happens is, this is actually the search results you will get. So you actually see the merchant's vendor, the name of the company, the description of the services. Sorry, you don't have description of services. The description is actually found in the business info, the address, the telephone number, and the conversion buttons are actually defined as the one in green, the Ask Me, which actually leads to a pop-up form. So from the client's point of view, they will actually use those, they will actually measure those forms, and actually after that upsell back to the advertisers. So what we did was, when we evaluated the analysis on this landing page, we realized that as a user who comes in and search for wedding packages, the landing page, the results that returned, actually don't contain some of the trigger words that he might actually be thinking about. And the location at this point, I think, is pretty much irrelevant, because it actually doesn't help the user to discern whether merchant A or merchant B is of a better service than the other. And there were actually just too many call to action buttons. So remember point number 1, just remove all the choices. And in fact, more relevant content was actually hidden inside that link under the business info search. So what we did was, we recommended a change. In terms of the template, we actually asked the client actually to come up with a version 2, which actually pulls some of this information from the business info right up to the search results page. And we actually reduce the conversion buttons. Instead of 4, we actually come down to just strip down to the Ask Me and the Call Me. And what happens that was, we actually put it through the Google Website Optimizer, and within a 5-day span, because the site was actually bringing a lot of traffic, within a 5-day test, we actually could conclude the test, and conversions actually went up by as much as 58%. So that's the importance of having your trigger keywords on the landing page. So with that, I think it's more important that you guys actually put these 2 tips to test. and go back with a fresh set of eyes, re-look at your site, and see how you could, again, look at whether your call to action buttons, your compelling call to action, are the words on the trigger keywords actually on the landing page, and review all those promises. And if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them after this. Thank you.